All right, so tonight what we're gonna do is re-drill lug patterns in some old existing rims that my dad had up in the shed. They're like in new condition, they've hardly been used. They were on a 70 Viper. They're the same size rim as my son's new 125 Yamaha Raptor, and they have really nice hauler paddles on them. So I wanna use those paddles and rims on my new machine. So instead of going out to buy new ones and spend like 100, 150 bucks, I want to re-drill the lug patterns. So tonight I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so here is the stock tire on the Yamaha 125, and I went in and pulled that off because this is what I'm going to build my template with to be able to drill out these lug patterns on the new rim. And here is some of the things that I have that I use. So I use this oil right here. It works great to spray on the drill bit and everything while you're drilling the steel out. You can kind of use whatever oil, but this penetrating oil worked just fine. A measuring tape, of course. I've got the template I built last night, so I'm going to give you an example and a rundown on how that worked. A couple of the shims that I also made in order to shim it up nice and tight in the rim as I drilled the holes out to make sure I got the right pattern set up. I've got some sockets here. These are basically to take care of these nuts. I actually bolt the template into the steel rim that I'm going to be drilling out. So I do that there. I've got some files for the holes to file them down a little bit, a marker to mark things. I've got a little Dremel with a little grinder wheel on it so I can clean things up if I need to. I've got my drill bits, a little punch if you need to. I also got a center hole drill bit. That way, this doesn't have to be perfect on this template, but I just drilled out a hole. It doesn't really matter as long as it goes through the axle area so you're able to get it on and test it on your four-wheeler. Of course, I got my drill gun here and a hammer. And then this is the rim that we're gonna be drilling a couple more holes on. So as you can see, it's got a couple bolt patterns on it already. Some people might think that this might make the rim or whatnot a lot weaker, and that is a possibility, but in this case, with only an 8-inch rim, all steel, going on a 125, I really don't think I'm gonna have any issues with it. Okay, so here is the stock Yamaha Raptor rim that I want to use to build my template with. So it's an 8-inch rim. It's basically a bolt pattern that I need to match and build a template with. So what I started with was basically a rectangular piece of wood. It was about 5.5 by 10 inches long. And then from there I cut it down. So what I did is on my chop saw, instead of cutting it round so you have to sit there and try to make it perfect, I cut angles off and measured those angles on each side of the corners and then also the length here. And then that way, if you notice, as it slides in nice, just like that. So that's what I did with these shims. So these shims I built are actually shims that you use to hang a door frame in a house. So when you hang a door frame, you're able to push the shim in, and then it starts with a thinner thickness at the beginning, and it just gets thicker. So I labeled them 1 and 2, and then that way I knew exactly where I needed to put them. But how I worked it is basically I added the shim with a thinner one in the back, like that. And I put it down in here and then push this down here to get tight. And then I did the same thing with the one in the back. And as they went tighter and tighter, I just pushed them down until it formed a perfectly even, all the way around the rim center template. And then from there, I went ahead and drilled. As I held this side, I actually just held it here, and I took my drill and I just went ahead and drilled right through and got a nice straight bolt pattern on my template. Pretty easy. So that worked out. The key is to have these in here so it sits nice and tight in that rim, and that will help it from moving anywhere. So with that being said, I'll kind of show you the new rim. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill on this rim, and I'm gonna drill on the back side. And what I did is, this is the new holes. So I wanna make sure that these holes are of course in these bigger areas on the rim, so you can have more strength that way, and they're not too close to the other lug holes. So what I did is, basically once I got them and marked them on my last rim where I needed it, I had everything marked by a Bic marker, so straight up and down, and it fits in there just nice. I actually lined it up so if you see that, the holes line up there, and then from there I have these bolts, and I actually just bolt it through just like that, tighten it down on the top and bottom, and guess what? I am good to go. Want to make sure that I have everything squared and in the place that it needs to be, and also that I have these holes lined up in the right area. But since I've already done one rim, these holes I knew that were going to mount in the standard holes that were already there, and then that would place these holes right in the spot that I needed to drill them out. So that's about it. So as you can see on this side, which is the front side, the new holes will be drilled out right. There's one right here, and then there's one right here, one right in here, and one right in there. So we're going right in between each lug pattern there. But it's really critical that you make sure you get these on nice and straight to begin with, because that will make your life a whole lot easier. Believe me, it becomes quite the pain in the butt if you don't. Okay, so now I'm gonna start the drilling. I've got my template all centered on here, ready to go. I'm gonna start the drilling on my rim for the new lug pattern. So basically, what we're gonna do here, just make sure everything's lined up nice. It's ready to go. So what I do is I start with the right size drill bit. And instead of using like a punch and sitting there and hammering it, if you start with this, the wood template will actually help keep everything centered. And so I use a 3/4 inch piece of wood because that helps just keep me centered. And if I start my drill, it will actually start a little tapered area for me that will be dead center. Now you'll have a little area to start with your smaller drill bit. So I go down actually to a pretty small size. Helps quite a bit. And then also with the wood, it's nice because you spray a little oil in there and it holds it in there. Let me get some blue paper towels. I like to put that right there below it, so all the oil and metal shavings will be falling down in there. Let me get to my center spot. There's one. And if you use the bigger drill bit first, just to get something started dead center, your smaller drill bit will not wander at all, so that's the key. take some pressure. You got to be pushing down and doing some pressure to get them through. All right. So as you guys can see, I've got all 4 of my new holes drilled, and they are pretty much dead even where they need to be. So we'll kind of go from there, and we should be good to go. So now I'm going to go over to a little bit bigger drill bit. And if you kind of just stage out your drill bits, it actually works pretty well. It goes a little bit quicker that way. So I'll go to a little bit bigger one. Spray a little bit more oil in there. Find the hole. It already broke through, and it's quite nice because you don't have to put nearly as much pressure on this time around. And the small hole you already drilled guides it better. So there's all 4 of those. And again, as you can see, the hole's gotten bigger. We're right on track. So now, I'm going to make the next stage to the main drill bit. Spray some more oil in there. Switch out my battery real quick. There's hole number 1. It's going to want to catch on you and everything some, but just make sure you kind of hold it down and just throw it in reverse and then go back the other way. There's 3 of them. And there's 4. So as you guys can see, my template held up well. Shavings, oils in there. Didn't move at all because I had it bolted down. That's the key, so it won't move. And then I've got all my wheel lugs. These 2 are a little bit close to that one, but they shouldn't make a difference on the Yamaha. It should be fine. These ones all look good. Everything's evenly spaced apart. So from there, we'll just clean them up and get them mounted. On the back side here, you have to turn it around. You'll have little pieces of shavings and metal that came up from the drill when you're pushing down, so that's what I use the Dremel for. And also this round file works out nice because you can throw it in the holes and smooth them out. From here too, if you have to go any bigger on your hole, take really small steps with the drill bits and just work your way up slowly until you get the right perfect hole for the lug pattern. When you slide it on the studs, that it fits nice and secure, but that it's not too big or too small and too tight. So just take baby steps with it. Just don't jump to a bigger drill bit and drill a hole, because once you drill it, you're done. You can't redo it. So I got that all set up. get my Dremel over here, and we'll knock off the little shavings in the rim. Okay, so I'm down here working on the Yamaha, and I want to finish up installing these rims. So this is what's really important about keeping the rim balanced, per se, with the lug patterns, and this is key. So if you guys look really, really close, you guys see this little knob right here? There's one on each stud. You want your rim to fit nice and tight in there. If it fits nice and tight in there and you bolt these down tight, your rim's not going to go anywhere. And if your rim's touching each of those just right, you're dead on. You're going to be center. The wheel's not going to wobble. So that's the key in building this. So sometimes you have to upsize your bolt pattern a little bit by using bigger drill bits. But other than that, it should fit right on. So let me show you how it goes. Alright, I got some light in there, but as you guys can see, I'm laying down on the ground to show you the best, keep it as clear as possible. You guys see that? That rim's sitting right on there, on each of those stems. Alright, we got our other Derange dude on the Raptor 125. And we're just finishing up basically the rim paddle package that I put on last night and drilled out to show you guys that it works well. So go ahead, Dust, take off. Yeah.
Alright. Don't stall it out, right?
Yeah. There you go, and that's a wrap. It looks like everything's working great. They're nice and true and balanced and running well. And on these paddles right here on the 125, we're running about 3-4 PSI, that's it. That's all about it takes.
See that air?
Yeah, there you go.